Welcome back, my friends. Currently, we're on day 357 of Russia's disastrous invasion of Ukraine, and the United States is warning its citizens to leave Russia, citing both draft and security risks. Now, for the last 11 months, the United States has been telling its citizens don't go to Russia, but something has changed. The U.S. Embassy in Moscow has urged its citizens to leave Russia immediately due to a slew of security risks that include possible forced enlistment into the Russian army. So President Putin on February 21st, coming up in a couple days, he's giving a big speech to the nation, and there is a possibility he will announce he's closing the borders and doing the next round of mass mobilization. So what this tells you is that any U.S. citizens in the country, maybe they have dual citizenship with Russia, they're going to be mobilized, and they're going to be forced into the Russian army, sent to the front lines, and used as cannon fodder, even if they're U.S. citizens. Now, we might know this due to intelligence leaks. Every day there are high-ranking Russian officials trying to escape Russia. They go to Israel, they go to France, they go to the UK, Canada, and even the United States. So here's an article from this week. Ex-Russian military bomber engineer seeks asylum at the US border and offers military secrets. So a Russian military bomber engineer drove up to the US southwest border in late December asking for asylum and offering to reveal some of Russia's most closely guarded military secrets. This is according to an unclassified Customs and Border Protection report. Apparently, this Russian citizen had participated in anti-Putin protests supporting imprisoned politician Navalny. So he felt like he needed to get himself and his family out of the country, and he wants protection, and he thinks the best place to get that is in the United States. So do you remember that attack in Vuhledar last week that went terrible for the Russians? I saw the videos, and I just assumed that these were mobilized men who were poorly equipped and poorly trained, but apparently not. Russia may have lost entire elite brigade near Vuhledar. So Ukraine's armed forces may have destroyed almost an entire brigade of Russia's elite 155th Naval Infantry. The brigade totals 5,000 soldiers, whose members were either killed, wounded, or captured. Visually confirmed, there were over 30 armored vehicles destroyed. So here's the question. Is this Russia's big winter offensive? Ukraine's situation reports Russia's offensive has begun, according to the NATO chief. As Russia gets closer to capturing Bakhmut, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg says its long-awaited offensive in the east is currently underway. And that's not a good sign for Russia if I'm questioning, is this it? Is this their big winter push that they've been talking about for months? And if you remember, when Gerasimov took over the entire war effort in Ukraine, this was a month or two ago, Putin gave him the direct order that he had to capture the entirety of the Donbas region by March. So he's only got a month and a half left. And there are reports coming out from the front lines that the Russians are attempting to push from multiple directions. They're pushing from the north towards the city of Liman. They're pushing in Bakhmut like they always have the last couple months. They're pushing from the city of Donetsk as well as in the south near Vuhledar. Something tells me, though, is that they're not going to make it to this dotted line. This is the boundary of the Donbas region by April 1st. So more than likely, Gerasimov is going to get fired and replaced. And this is according to UK's Defense Ministry. Russia aims to advance in most directions, but it lacks combat power. So Russian troops are being ordered to advance in most sectors of Ukraine's front line, but they have not amassed sufficient offensive combat power on any one axis to achieve a decisive effect. That's pretty damning. If this is the best Russia can do, Now, I don't want to downplay it. They still have a lot of soldiers. They still have a lot of weapons. They can still do a lot of damage and destruction. But is Russia going to somehow create this breakthrough in which they start capturing cities every day? And that's just not going to happen. But what results is Russia getting? Russia has likely suffered its highest rate of casualties since the beginning of the war in the past 2 weeks. This is according to UK's defense ministry. The Ukrainians obviously put out their own estimates and numbers. And here it is. Here's the graph. This is killed in action. Each one of these dots is a week. So in the first 2 weeks of the war, the Russian military decided to attack from everywhere with not enough troops and supplies to really do anything. They suffered horrendous casualties those first 2 weeks. They then realized that the Ukrainians were actually there to fight, and they kind of paused their offensive operations. And it was only a couple of weeks later that they gave up on taking Kyiv and the north, and they pulled out to focus on the south and the east. Now, Russia's casualties were kind of leveling off, close to 1,500 a week for the first couple months of the war, but you can see that things started to change in early July. This is when the Ukrainians got their first 4 HIMARS launchers and all of the Russians' ammunition depots started blowing up. So look at this rate of killed in action estimates for the Russian military the last 7 or 8 months. And you can see there were huge spikes. This was the Kharkiv counteroffensive, in which the Ukrainians retook thousands of kilometers of territory. This spike right here was the Kherson counteroffensive, in which they retook the city of Kherson. But as we've gotten into January and February, approaching this 1-year anniversary, Russia's getting antsy, and they're sending more of their soldiers to the front lines in these human wave attacks. So here's the dots for the week of February 6th through the 12th. Over 6,000 Russian soldiers killed in action. This was the deadliest week of the war for the Russian military. But despite Russia's best efforts, Ukraine's situation reports front lines are quite stable, according to, this is Joint Chiefs Chairman General Mark Milley. So this is America's top general, and here is the strong language he's using to describe the Russian military.
Russia has lost. They've lost strategically, operationally, and tactically, and they are paying an enormous price on the battlefield. But until Putin ends his war of choice, the international community will continue to support Ukraine with the equipment and capabilities it needs to defend itself. Through this group, we are collectively supporting Ukraine's ability to defend its territory, protect its citizens, and liberate their occupied areas.
Russia has lost, and Putin won't admit it. It's Putin who is choosing escalation, not Ukraine. And the next Ramstein meeting of NATO allies is currently happening in Germany. Here's the moment where Ukrainian Defense Minister Reznikov meets Secretary of Defense Austin.
Mr. Minister, hello, Secretary. How are you? I'm fine. I bring my wife here. Really? Yes.
They already look like old friends. And if you remember from a video I made last week, there were reports that Ukraine's Defense Minister Reznikov would be resigning. He wasn't directly involved in a corruption scandal, but one of his deputies was. President Zelensky himself has now refuted that this is going to be happening, and it looks like Reznikov will be staying in his position for the foreseeable future. Here's another great clip of Reznikov leaving a meeting, and just look at the smile on his face.
What's that? You see?
And who do you expect to get it?
From the sky.
So he wanted to show the media his handkerchief, which has a fighter jet on it, and they asked him, "Where are you getting the jets from?" And he replied, "From the sky." So more than likely he knows something that has not been given to the public yet. As we approach the one-year anniversary, lots of these world leaders are going to be getting together and making announcements. So let's give it another week on the official announcement of fighter jets for Ukraine. But in the meantime, they keep unloading this massive ship with delivery of armored vehicles from the United States. This is in Germany. And you can just see all of the Humvees and MRAPs. Here are the M2 Bradleys. There should be 60 of them. But just look at these trucks and all of these support vehicles for the armored vehicles. In total, there's close to about 500 of these vehicles being offloaded from this ship that are now on their way to Ukraine. So here's the video of a truck loading an M2 Bradley. The Bradley obviously isn't going to be driving itself to Ukraine, so each one of these individually is being loaded and then shipped. As the Ukrainians graduate from their training in Germany, they can then take over these vehicles and get them to the front lines, hopefully at the beginning of March. The president of Poland also released this video where he is meeting with Ukrainian defenders who have gone to Poland to start their training on the Leopard 2 tanks. I'll include this clip down below if you want to watch it. But here is an interview with Ukrainian tanker Major Vadim Kodak. He's with the 4th Tank Brigade. He's originally from Dnipro. And this is what he has to say about how his training is going in Poland on the Leopard 2 tank.
На сьогоднішній день я можу сказати, що машина дуже якісна, дуже хороша. І саме те, що мені подобається, вона дуже сподобалась нашим солдатам. Я думаю, що цього терміну, який нам визначений, буде досить для того, щоб освоїти дану техніку. Всі мої солдати, також і я особисто, ми приїхали з Східного фронту, Донецьк-Луганськ, безпосередньо з району бойових дій. Тобі ж нас не було багато часу, тобто нам поступила команда і буквально 2-3 дні, і ми вже були в Польщі. На даний час нам дуже бракує бронетехніки. І я сподіваюся, що коли ми прийдемо з цією технікою на передову, вона врятує дуже багато життів нашим солдатам, а також приблизить нас до перемоги. Мені на сьогоднішній день 57 років.
So these defenders already have experience operating tanks, and they were already fighting on the front lines in Donetsk. He's saying that they were given notification that they're going to Poland to train on the Leopards, and they were there within 2 days. Absolutely inspiring. It's an incredible story all around. You can tell these guys are motivated and eager to get back to the Donbass region in order to help their countrymen. And with all these allied nations meeting in Germany talking about assistance for Ukraine, it's important to remember the urgency and the motivation, which is why I appreciate these kinds of reports from Maria Avdiva. She reports from the city of Kharkiv. And let me share her latest update with you.
Almost a year since Russia invaded Ukraine, and I still cannot get used to the sounds of air sirens every night and day. They make me think of where Russia will attack next, where Russian missiles will land this time. And this is why Ukraine asks for more help, because only together we can stop Russia. Only together we can make Ukraine and the whole world a safer place. Please continue supporting us. We need it here.
Every day and every week, the Russian military continues to target and bomb civilians. Russia is not going to stop until Ukraine has the weapons to force them to stop. And here's a concerning headline. NATO chief says Ukraine's ammunition use is outstripping supply. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg warned Monday that Ukraine is using up ammunition far faster than its allies can provide it, and putting pressure on Western defense industries. So it's the job of the NATO Secretary General to make these kinds of statements to alarm governments and politicians to take actions. But I'm pretty confident that the industrial capacity of 50 democratic Western nations that are the world's largest economies, they can increase production to meet the demand for ammunition better than the Russians can do by themselves. So don't be alarmed by this headline. Once the money is allocated and the contracts are there, within a couple months, I am confident that Western defense manufacturers can meet the ammunition needs of the Ukrainians. In the meantime, Western allies might just have to start getting creative. Seized Iranian weapons could go to Ukraine. The US government has thousands of guns, millions of rounds of ammo, and more that has been seized heading from Iran to Yemen. So here's a picture of the deck of the ship with all of the weapons laid out. And what happened is Iran was shipping weapons to rebels in Yemen to attack the Saudis. The US Navy intercepted this ship, found all of the arms and weapons, and now is just thinking of giving it to the Ukrainians. So thank you for the military assistance, Iran. If you want to send some more ships full of weapons that the US Navy can intercept, Ukraine greatly appreciates the help. Okay, this next story is absolutely insane. This tweet is from Jason J. Smart. He is a correspondent with the Kyiv Post. And this is what it reads. The hypocrisy. Daniel Solovyev, 21-year-old son of Russian propagandist Vladimir, is working as a male model in London. Despite Vlad's calling for war against Ukraine, he has failed to mention this or his other elder draft-dodging son, who also studied in the UK. So here's Solovyev, the #1 most watched propagandist on Kremlin state TV. And this is his adult son. This guy apparently is an open bisexual male model living and working in London. Solovyev has another adult son. This guy, I guess, maybe works in television or movies somehow. And I don't know this guy. I want him to live his life however he wants to live it. But that's not what you can do in Russia. If you want to be free and pursue your dreams, live a good life, you gotta go to the West. You gotta go to London or Paris or Berlin or the United States. So the hypocrisy of this man pushing Kremlin propaganda about traditional values and the decadence and decaying of the Nazi West, while both of his sons were educated in London, and one of them currently is a male model. So this tweet went viral, and Solovyev, for some reason, felt like he needed to respond to it on his broadcast.
Откуда же все эта цепсошная херня пошла? Смотрю, Джейсон Джей Смарт. Но он, во-первых, гей, а не Джей, и он не смарт, а fucking stupid. И Джейсон Джей Смарт пишет, the hypocrisy. Daniel Solovyev, 21-year-old son of propagandist Vladimir, is working as a model in London. It must be his mama's genes. Despite Vlad calling for war against Ukraine, he has failed to mention that this or his elder draft-dodging son, who also studied in the UK. И дальше фотографии моих детей. Все хорошо, но это ложь. Это цепсошная ложь, которую забросил киевский пропагандист Джейсон Джей Смарт, который работает в Киеве, на Украине.
So Solovyev is not happy that people are talking about his draft-dodging adult children. Here's another little bit of his broadcast from that night.
Сын мой в Москве учится в московском учебном высшем заведении. Ниоткуда не бегает, ни от чего не уклоняется. Живет обычной тяжелой жизнью молодого человека, который не факт, что должна нравиться его отцу или не нравиться. Это вообще о другом. Он взрослый человек, у него своя жизнь.
So he's just making excuses. He has 2 adult sons of military age that could be serving in the military or fighting in Ukraine. But this guy is never going to let that happen. He's never going to let his sons throw their lives away joining the Russian military. And at the same time that his children were both educated in London, he frequently calls for bombing London. So this is from his broadcast last week after the UK announced that Ukrainian pilots would start training on NATO aircraft in the UK. So here's his response to that.
Мы что, не можем наконец нанести удар по Лондону? В чем проблема? Не-не-не, только по военным объектам. Ну и по парламенту. Но они же собираются дать авиацию, чтобы были нанесены удары вглубь России. При этом они хитро говорят, нет, говорят, ну мы просто Крым не признаем Россией. А Калининград?
So he's wearing a military fleece with name tags and patches, calling for the bombing of London, and his son currently lives in London. Real nice guy. But here's the truth. Every video I make for you guys, I could show another one of these viral clips of Russian mobilized men filming these pathetic videos asking for help. I'm not going to play these clips anymore. I'll include it in a pinned comment down below. But let me read to you a couple of the sentences that they said. We were not adequately equipped. No medkits, no proper armored vests, nothing was provided. Everything that our battle commander was assuring us turned out to be a lie. In 30 minutes, we are going to the front line, unclear where, we are not being told anything at all. So these are mobilized men that were told you'll be far behind the front lines in a supporting role. As soon as they get to Ukraine, they're told, no, you're being immediately sent to the front to be used as cannon fodder. This is why Solovyev doesn't want his sons in the Russian military. Okay, last couple feel-good clips I have for you. The first one is of Nate Mook, and he is the president of the Ukraine Foundation, currently doing really good work in the country, and he wanted to share this video with you.
Hey guys, this is Nate. I am in the city of Svetahursk right now in eastern Ukraine, and we are here at one of our displaced pet feeding stations. As you can see, Sergey here is refilling, and already we have a little dog who's here waiting to eat. He saw our team and started running over to join us. Svetahursk is pretty heavily destroyed. You can see some of the lines down behind me, and then back here you can see some of the destruction. So we've got these points in a couple of places throughout the city, and we're also delivering directly to the families, to homes where people are taking care of sometimes dozens of cats and dogs, including Irina, who I introduced you to some months back. So just wanted you to see what was going on here. Also, here's Yulia and Katya. Hello.
That looks like a very grateful dog. And if you want to check out and support Nate, here's his Twitter page. I'll put a link to his page on the pinned comment down below. Final video I have for you is of it's kind of an ASMR video of a Ukrainian woman cooking borscht. Let's just watch this together. Looks good. If you want to check out more cooking videos, this is Olga's Instagram page. Once again, I will include it in the pinned comment down below. That's all for this update video. Glory to the heroes, glory to Ukraine. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support my channel. Comments or questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, take care, be safe.